Alright, Ray, I'm going to be casting a game, a StarCraft 2 for you. So I am the red Protoss player in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. So this is me. And I'm against the blue Terran player in the top left hand corner of the screen. So just to let you know, he chose random, but he became Terran. So what I'm actually doing here is sending a probe to my gate, or to my ramp, so I can build a pylon and then wall this off a little. That's in case that he spawned as a Zerg player and wanted to rush me. That way I could kind of wall off and prevent the Zerg from killing me. So I send that probe to scout across the map instantly because I'm afraid he's going to rush me. So that's also why I built the gateway here, to kind of prevent a big surface area. So that way I can put one unit there and kind of block him. So with my probe, I actually see he sends a really fast SCV. And then I see that he's sort of using this SCV to keep my probe out of his base. So what that kind of tells me is that he's doing something a little bit fishy, and that he wants to make it so that whatever he's doing is secret, so that way, I don't know what he's doing. So of course, I think he's gonna rush me. So I get my gas, that way I can get my Cyber Core immediately after, and then get Warp Gate. So just standard build on my end. I send my probe back up there to see what he's doing. And this is a really good indication that he's going to rush me, or he's doing something cheesy, because he doesn't finish building the supply depot. So that way he just does this so that he's walled off, so that he can build more stuff elsewhere. Now, the SCV earlier never comes into my base, and that SCV is actually building a proxy barracks down here. So I'm still just kind of macroing up. And what I want to kind of do is still play a fairly conservative game, because that way if his rush fails, I'll have a big lead. So I actually make a Zealot, and this is unfortunate because I think he's doing something fishy. That's why I'm sending this probe around my base to check for anything that could be proxied there. And I actually send this Zealot down to check other areas, but I never send it over here. So I grab this watchtower with my probe just to make sure that I can see anything that's coming from his base. And here, I really probably should have done something a little bit different. I'm getting my Warp Gate, and I decide to expand. And now I'm just kind of chilling here. And now I see an SCV come from over there, and I think things are getting a little suspicious. So I get a second gas, that way I can kind of start pumping out units. And the SCV comes into my base to check some stuff out. My Mothership Core does spawn, which is going to allow me to get some overcharged pylons and kind of prevent something big. I'm making an Adept because I know something's going to come here soon. And this is actually the moment where I realize that I'm getting rushed really hard, is because I have my probe here and I see another SCV come down. And that's kind of bizarre because the SCV walks right past this watchtower. Normally you would send the SCV to the watchtower just to kind of keep it and get vision. And then I see this Marauder. So at this point, I know that I'm getting rushed. I throw down a robotics facility, and I'm basically going to have to cancel this Nexus. So what I do is just I kind of keep it going because I don't know how big this is going to be. The SCV kind of gets in here. It does get to see around a little bit. And I'm chrono boosting out a Stalker because if I can get more units out, all the better. So right now, I'm just kind of ignorantly making units and trying to expand. Unfortunately, that Nexus does go down, which means that if he kills it, I'm out 400 minerals. And so now he's just making units over here, which he probably should have attacked earlier because I really don't have anything. But once my robotics facility gets up here, I'm going to be able to start pumping out Immortals. So he attacks my base there. I have to cancel that pylon, and this is definitely going to die. So I'm continuing to chrono boost out another Stalker. I get an Immortal first instead of an Observer because that way I actually want to be able to fight. So I kind of just poke at these units, and this is some really bad miss micro here. I put down the overcharged pylon, which is a waste of energy, and I have enough for another photon overcharge. Thankfully he puts this bunker too close, so my Stalkers on the high ground can kill it. And I'm pretty much just trying to pump out as many units as possible. I only have one Warp Gate, which is really unfortunate, so he's going to push up here. This is a horrible miss micro because I didn't overcharge that. But I get to overcharge this pylon, the Immortal gets out here, and we actually do just enough damage to really start pumping away at these units. He decides to back down, which is really lucky for me because I'm pretty sure he could have killed me right there. So I'm just kind of building pylons and trying to get things up. I finally got my second gateway up, but this one is now unpowered because I don't have a pylon here. So in this situation, I know I just have to make sure I don't get supply blocks. That's why I'm throwing down a lot of pylons, and also so that way I can photon overcharge them. And I'm just trying to warp in as many units as possible. I kind of poke down here. He sends 2 Marines there. I get them. This is some bad micro on my end because I didn't know he had Marauder slow, so I actually lose that Stalker. But as of right now, I'm just still pumping out Immortals. And I think in my head in this game, if I can just keep pumping out Immortals, I'll probably be able to win. So I decided to get 2 Sentries because I had a ton of gas. And this is actually a pretty sweet move because Sentries have force fields. So you'll see later that I try to force field off this ramp here and kind of split his units in 2. So I'm still pumping away, building tons of pylons, making sure I don't get supply blocked, and making sure this mothership core has plenty of targets for photon overcharge. So I throw down a sick force field, but unfortunately he still has high ground vision, so he manages to snipe an Immortal, which really sucks for me, because Immortals are really expensive. But he did stim there without any medivacs, so now these units are all in yellow health. Fortunately, I keep pumping out Immortals. I get another Sentry so I can keep force fielding, and I'm basically just sitting in my base. Now, if he decided to expand behind this, he does have another command center. I'd be really screwed. Thankfully, he's not mining from anything or pumping out any units. He's still making more units from these barracks, so it's still a pretty even match. The supplies are 50 to 45. And so he comes up here again, and this is kind of where the big turning point is. I managed to force field this off and get a photon overcharge here. So I managed to kill off almost all of his units and maintain 2 Immortals and a few more of my gateway units. So this is the moment where I decide that I need to kind of push out because I have 3 Immortals, a couple of Adepts, and all these units. Fortunately, I managed to get this probe just out of there in time, so he's going to make a proxy pylon, and I still don't know there's these barracks here. I would have killed them off. So I send my probe over to this corner here so I can make a safe proxy pylon. That way I can use my warp gate units to warp in on the pylon. And over here, I'm just continuing to pump out units. My mentality is that I basically have to go all in because if he has an expansion down here, which he does, if I expand behind this, I basically can't catch up. So I'm still continuing to make units. I gotta make sure I keep these Immortals alive. There's 2 Adepts being warped in. I make another proxy pylon over here so it's closer. And I have some units on the way. Thankfully, I decide to attack just in time before he gets his bunker up. I do have Immortals, but it's still really, really convenient I got it up. And I actually focus fire it down here, just because I really don't want that bunker to go up. So from here on out, I basically have just a huge army, and there's nothing I can really do about it. But the problem is he's still making units from these barracks. So these Marines are actually going to catch a few of my units out of place. And you can see here I just kind of go in and start killing everything. I want to make sure I get his units, that way I can just kill everything else for free. And so I just kind of keep going in here, destroy a barracks or 2. He manages to catch these Adepts out here with these Marines. I make an observer just because I want to make sure that no invisible units kind of come out and basically kill me for free. So I decide to come down here because I see all these units, and I want to try to save this pylon and this probe. And so I kind of leave his base alone just because like I pretty much killed off everything inside here, so there's not too much I have to worry about. The only downside is I'm almost out of minerals in my main base, and I don't have enough minerals to expand. So the problem is if he kills off this, I basically lose the game. So I'm just trying to kill his bases here. He decides to send some Marines back. Thankfully, I think my mothership core is around here. And I actually move that here because I want to make sure I can kill any units that come up this ramp. So I send my units back, start killing his base, just want to make sure he can't do anything. I lose my observer thinking bad because of the missile turret. And I just start making sure I can kill everything, including these SCVs. That way he can't repair anything, because I knew he might have Widow Mines. So I think I pump out another observer, because I don't want that to happen. I make more units in my base, 3 Adepts and an Immortal, just because I'm afraid of a counterattack, because I saw those Medivacs fly out. And so this is actually a pretty scary force, just because he has Stim and 4 Medivacs that can heal all of his bio. And I knew he flew off the 1 base, or the 2 bases somewhere. So that's where I'm pretty afraid of everything. But I have a huge force that he definitely can't beat. The problem is I'm afraid he comes into my base and kills me. So I keep all my units here. I'm trying to bank up 400 mins, and as soon as I do, I send a probe down to my natural to try to make a base. But as you can see, that's not going to go well at all. I build that there. He comes up here. I photon overcharge. Thankfully, it's too much for him, so I kill off a few units for free. But I realize that I'm gonna have to cancel this because if I lose this, I lose all of those minerals, and I'm in a really bad spot. So I split up half of my force and send some units down here to take care of this. And I also send my other units up north to try to take care of his other base. So currently I'm just sitting in my base trying to make sure I can expand at some point. I have a small engagement here, some force fields go off, I get a guardian shield, and I'm just kind of killing this bio. Thankfully I managed to kill it all off. This base, these units find that base, I kill off all of his barracks, and that's the end of the game. So here's a short little game of StarCraft 2 for you, Ray. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see your wonderful, wonderful Wargamer Dragon cast.